Welcome to the Konquer pitch deck. Konquer is a networking application for athletes. We will begin with the combat sports and then transition into the team sports. The first problem that we'll be tackling is connecting fighters in combat sports like boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, etc. Professional fighters should be fighting up to 4 to 6 times a year, maybe even up to 8 times a year, and they usually end up fighting only 1 to 3 times a year. So this is about 50 to 80% less than optimal. Amateurs, on the other hand, are typically matched up on the day of the fight. They train hard, they invite their family and their friends, and then their trainer is unable to match them up because they can't find a guy with similar experience or at the same weight class. So then the fight is canceled. The cause of this is generally due to network limitations. Who your trainer knows, your coach knows, which gyms they're associated with, and etc. So the solution for this is to create an application that lets you find fighters, connect to their team, and set up fights. The fighters will be happy because they're going to be matched up quickly. The promoters are going to save time and money because they won't have to spend a lot of time reaching out to gyms and within their own network. Of course, the fans will be happy to pay the money and come and enjoy some great entertainment. How are we going to do this? I would recommend looking at the prototype, but you will be able to search for fighters by amateur professional level, weight class, experience level, and location, and then it will display the results based on those parameters. And then once you select a profile, it will show who the fighter is, what their weight class is, what gym they fight out of, who their manager, their promoter is, and perhaps even members of their team. And then you can reach out to the trainer or the manager or message the fighter directly. Okay. So, how do we know this is indeed a problem? Well, in England, they have set up a database. The amateur gyms out there have set up a database where trainers will upload the information of their fighters. So, perhaps their weight class, their age, their experience level, and then the trainers will match up fighters based on that information. It has about 19,000 users, and the main disadvantage is the fighters aren't making the profiles. This is closed off to the public, and it's just meant to solve just a local problem. And so it's restricted to just local amateur boxing. It's basically some HTML and CSS put together. Then there's also BoxRec. This is basically a crowdsourced record-keeping database of professional boxers. There's up to, I think, 100 to 200,000 fighters listed on there. 30,000 of them happen to be active. This is where you can check records, rankings, and schedules. It's sort of the gold standard for boxing. I believe MMA has SureDog. And so the main disadvantage of this is it's crowdsourced. The fighters aren't making they're not building their own profiles, and it's cluttered with ads. It has a bad user experience. And it's basically just a website. And then there's sports jobs. This is actually more in semi-professional. This is more targeted towards basketball. Players will upload their basically basic content and try to connect with local recruiters. It's not mobile friendly. There's not much design sense in it, and it's only focused on semi-professional basketball. But this just shows that there is some market validation for what we're pursuing. So the market size, there are about 300 million professional and amateur athletes. In the combat sports, it's more closer to between 700,000 and perhaps 1.2 million professional and amateur athletes worldwide, and these are sort of conservative estimates. And the market, total addressable market for combat sports, is about 8 to 10 billion. That includes revenue generated from events, ticket sales, gym memberships to any boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu gyms, Muay Thai, kickboxing, etc. Equipment and apparel. And I will discuss how we will be able to actually generate revenue through this market next. And then team sports, that's really where a lot of the meat is. You have about 280 plus million athletes, so that's the market size there, and the total addressable market of roughly 90 to over $100 billion. And so that's obviously where our next focus will be. Okay, so the business model. So initially, we just want to focus on building the network. It will be free, and the the key is just going to the key is going to be focused on just building the network and gaining a lot of users. Then one of the main problems in combat sports is um, basically whenever a fight is put on, the fighters themselves, the trainers, the managers, they're the ones who generally sell the tickets. And so they end up sending like group messages, group text messages to everybody, and they have to go meet up with them in person just to sell the tickets. It's a headache, and it's very archaic. And so what we'd want to do is basically set up a simple way to create events and sell tickets directly to fans on there. And then, of course, targeted ads, we can charge by impression. And then, really, where the next focus is going to be is to have a marketplace where third-party vendors can sell sports memorabilia, equipment, gym memberships, etc. There will be different plans for the vendors, and this is already done. It'll be something similar to like Amazon, where vendors basically pay a monthly subscription charge, and this is perhaps something a little bit more down the line. But this is how we are going to generate revenue through gyms, through equipment. Of course, there's a lot of equipment associated with sports, and then through general apparel. Okay. So as soon as the app is released into the combat community, we will host fights and set up matches through the app. So fighters will have to match up on the app for these first few fights that we're going to set up, and then, of course, we will be visiting a lot of gyms. I'm already connected to a lot of the gyms here in Seattle and in the Colorado area, so that shouldn't be much trouble. This is one of the gyms I used to train at in Colorado. And then, of course, joining forces with local influencers and celebrities. This is the uncle of Floyd Mayweather, where I visited their gym in Las Vegas. And then, of course, promoting fights, promoting it at professional fights and national tournaments, really putting the word out there and partnering up with athletes in general, getting them to stand behind what we're doing because they understand this problem as well very deeply, and they've experienced it throughout their career. And of course, we will be marketing it big time on social media: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, etc. Okay. Now I will get into the risks and the mitigation. So basically, first risk is, of course, building the network. As long as we're focused on solving painful problems, we are going to be building value for the users. So that's part of the reason why they want to use us. Of course, iterating quickly and just being very connected to our end users will go a long way, and building tools that are going to facilitate content creation by the users. This is very critical for anything that is sticky. And just having an excellent user experience, making it very mobile friendly. Another risk is overcoming the old school way. People generally may not like change. However, when you make something 10 times better than the current system, they'll definitely jump on. And of course, there's that network effect. So that really is going to falsify some of those fears and get people to jump on board.